we are in Utah. Our final leg, we stayed the night in Richfield, and that's about halfway. So we're on our way home now, about 170 miles to Grand Junction. We'll be in Colorado, so it's been a long road, but it's fun, and we're glad to be heading back home. So we've been talking a little bit. We did one vlog all about foster care and what was going on there, so we wanted to just kind of do another one, but also give you guys a little, our hearts have kind of been changed a little towards foster care, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, just how God has worked on us, even on it's funny, our vacation to end our foster care journey, God spoke to us, and something else is probably going to happen, so we'll go into that later.
So we thought we'd start by just explaining why we're done with foster care, what happened to bring us to that point. So the kind of the nitty-gritty of how hard it's been. So when we first started foster care, we started with twin boys who came to our home, and then we added Katie, and then 3 months later she left, and then we got another little girl for 3 weeks, and then she left, and then we got another sibling set, another 2 kids who were with us for 9 months, and then we got Katie back. So at the end, the last few months of foster care, we had 8 kids, our 3 biological kids and 5 foster kids, all ages 7 and under. So our experience was, I would say, probably very extreme compared to maybe other people's foster care experiences. Having 2 or 3 placements at a time is a lot. That's 2 or 3 caseworkers coming over every month, 2 or 3 sets of biological parents that you have to have weekly visits with, 2 or 3 GALs coming over, 2 or 3, well, it's paperwork for every single foster care child. So
CASA's coming over.
CASA coming over twice a month, or checking in twice a month. So it was extreme. We had weekly visits an hour and 15 minutes away from our home where we would drop off the foster kids at a visiting center, and they would have like a 2 to 4 hour visit with their parents, and then another hour and 15 minute drive home. That was every single week. For the first 10 months, the twins' parents were really spotty in coming. I think we drove down to Colorado Springs 17 times and had their mom not show up. So pack up 6 or 7 kids, depending on who we had, drive an hour and 15 minutes, wait 15 minutes, parents don't show up, and then find something to do, and then get in the car and go back home. We had that, I want to say it was 17 times before we got a court order that she had to call ahead saying she was coming or not coming, and then that got easier. When we got the last sibling set placed with us last August, so a year ago, we ended up getting bed bugs, maybe from their previous foster home, we don't know, but that was it was horrible. It's embarrassing even to talk about, but there was months, probably 4 months that went by that we didn't even know it was bed bugs. We would take this little girl to the doctor because she had bites on her face, and at first somebody thought it was hand, foot, and mouth disease, and then the doctor thought it was roseola, and then we brought her back and the doctor thought it was fleas, so we had all of our animals treated for fleas, and it just went on, and finally we figured out it was bed bugs, and it cost us $1,000 for the exterminator to come out twice to get rid of the bed bugs. Every time both times that the exterminator came out, we had to move everything into our garage. We had to wash anything soft, all bedding, all clothes.
Like everything in the house.
Everything
like
in
not
the
just
house.
in their room. Like
Everything had to
everything
be
in the whole house.
washed,
Clothes, beds.
dried, bagged up, and then all the toys put out in the sunshine for a day and then put in the garage for a family of nine people in a 4-bedroom house. It was horrible, really, and we had to throw out the girls' beds and buy new beds. We had to throw out most of their belongings in the end. We tried to treat them, but we ended up just throwing out a ton of stuff and having to replace it. So that was probably about $2,000 altogether with the new beds and new bedding and new mattresses. It was really, really horrible and a really trying experience. During that time, I got shingles from the stress. And then also during that time, we had 4 of the foster kids in speech therapy every week, an hour every week, and 3 of the kids in play therapy, an hour every week. Those are court-ordered things that we don't have any choice in. So it just completely took over our schedules. We would have an average of 8 professionals in the home a week. So that's the speech therapist, the play therapist, caseworkers, GALs, and a CASA in our home every week, all while trying to homeschool. And we were just really kind of like barely keeping our heads above water. And then in May, do you want to tell them about the DHS? Okay, we'll fix it in just a little bit.
So in May, it was about, we had kind of our time with the twins and the other 2 was coming to the twins actually had left our home at this point. And we had the other 2, but they were getting ready to go back to their grandma. So in May, again, the twins had already left, and then our home supervisor called and said that a DHS worker from our county was coming out to the house to interview the foster kids and interview our kids because there had been an allegation. She wouldn't tell me or Lindsay what the allegation was or even what kid it was. So we were, confused, obviously scared. We're being investigated for abuse, which is crazy. I mean, we'd never abuse any kid. Obviously, with the job I have and just the love for the Lord, like we wouldn't do that. So we didn't understand where these allegations came from, what was going on. So we were scared, and Lindsay was home alone. I was at work. And I didn't want the DHS lady coming over while Lindsay was there alone. And so we had asked our home supervisor if it was possible to schedule a time for them to come out. And they usually don't like to do that. They like to just surprise you. Just come over when you're least expecting it, because then they can kind of catch you off guard and you're not, in their eyes, you don't have time to make a story up if you don't know they're coming. That's how they look at it. So, but actually this lady agreed to do that. So they set up a time for a Tuesday, and I even called. I asked our home supervisor if I could call the lady, because our home supervisor couldn't tell us what the allegation was or who it was. But she said the lady could tell me. So she gave me the DHS lady's phone number. I called her. She told me what the allegation was and didn't tell me who made it, but she told me what the allegation was. And, I knew when she told me that it was, we knew it was unfounded anyway, but when she told me, I knew what it was about. And it eased our nerves a little bit. Still, it's scary. We didn't want them interviewing our kids because we felt like our kids have didn't need to be a part of that part of foster care, and there's no reason for them to be interviewed. And at first, our home supervisor was on board with that. She said, yeah, that's fine, we support that. But then after talking with her boss, she called me back and said, well, we can't support that. They have to interview your kids. So I called the DHS lady again, told her I didn't want her interviewing our kids, but she could interview the foster kids that were in our home at that time. And she said, well, she had to interview all the kids, and she would get a court order from a judge to interview our kids if I didn't let her interview our kids. So basically, she was telling me there's nothing that you can do.
And the interviews were to be without us present, so our own flesh and blood just being interviewed by a complete stranger about scary things like, do your parents beat you, and do they beat the foster kids? And it was just kind of like a nightmare.
It's just scary. I mean, it's out of your control at that point. It's in the hands of somebody you don't know, somebody you've never met, and it's scary.
So at that point, we felt like our right to protect our own children our rights were completely stripped away. We had no choice. We can't protect our kids from going through that, and that was really frustrating. And we come to find out the allegation was made by the twins, either their mom or their caseworker, and we found out that our home supervisor said almost all foster families go through this at some point. And she said that to be an encouragement to us, but it really just made us feel all the more sickened by the system. Just a minute. That all foster families should have to go through something that horrible, and that's normal.
That was, I think, probably for us at that point, the final straw with foster care. We didn't, to end the DHS story. So she came over, she interviewed everybody, she interviewed our kids, and for me the final straw was she was explaining to us everything that could happen. If it was unfounded, then nothing, it's dropped, they move on. If it was founded, then one of the things that she said eventually could happen is our own kids could be taken away from us and put into the foster care system. For me, that was the final straw. That in my mind, I said, no, there's no way that I'm going to let somebody else come in here and tell me that, for one, I abused a child, that I didn't. It was a false allegation. But now they're telling me that my kids can be taken away and put into the foster care system, and I wasn't going to let, it was a control thing for me. I wasn't going to let that happen. I wanted to control it, and I was in fear. I wasn't letting God control that situation and protect my kids. So I said, in my opinion, in my mind, the only way I can protect them, okay, well then we're going to get out of the foster care system, because I don't want to be a part of a system that is not, that we're here loving these kids, and now you're telling me that you can take my kids away. To me, that was completely backwards and wrong, and I didn't want to be a part of that. So that's really what led us to the conclusion that after they left, and after hopefully we adopt Katie, that we were going to be done with foster care and we were going to move on.
So that was our plan, that we were going to get out of foster care, hopefully adopt Katie quickly, and then be done. We let our agency know, and as friends or family would ask us if we were going to take any more kids, that was the answer we gave them. We prayed about it a lot, and we felt at peace about it. We felt like maybe God had us do foster care just to get Katie, and we were happy with that. So we've had this conversation with people a couple dozen times in the last 4 or 5 months. And then a couple weeks ago, I was talking with a friend at co-op, and she was just asked that question, are you guys going to take any more foster kids? And I gave her that answer that we feel like, just a minute,
Hold on, guys.
it's a really dark and intense mission field, and we feel like God is showing us mercy by letting us get out of it. And then as I was saying that answer, I just had this strong thought that that as scary as the DHS investigation was, I was going through that investigation with her, and as scary as that was, the worst of it was the fear. The truth was that God sent us a very compassionate DHS worker. She's supposed to interview our children alone, not with each other and not with anybody else. But instead, she let our home supervisor be in the interviews with her and each child, and our kids really know our home supervisor well, and that made a big difference. She was very kind. She did not ask them if their parents beat them. I don't know what she asked them, but she told us that she would do it in a gentle way and she wouldn't be scary to them. And then Tucker was really scared to talk to her, so she let me sit in with him. He got to sit on my lap, and I just sat there quietly and listened. So she was actually very compassionate, and the allegation was dropped right away. She even told us, I have no concerns about your family. She put our fears at ease, and so realistically, the fear was horrible, but God carried us through every step, and it just wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad and as big of a deal as we thought, and I can only attribute that to God's faithfulness and His mercy carrying us through a scary situation and teaching us to only fear Him and not fear man.